Welcome back to the Weber Kettle series brought to you by Fogo Charcoal here on Chuds BBQ, everybody. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today we're making some absolutely fantastic BLTs. That's right, folks, we're making our own bread, our own mayonnaise, and of course, our own bacon on the Weber Kettle. Coming up! This is some pork belly. Pat it dry. Beautiful looking pork belly. Definitely something you need if you're gonna be making bacon. And when you're looking for these at the store, you really wanna get one that's got a lot of meat to it, because these are super fatty by nature. So if you can, make sure you got a lot of meat on there, because we're not making lardones here, folks. We're making bacon. And to do that, we need to hit this with a cure. This is the bacon cure I made in my last bacon making tutorial, so you can go over there and check that video out if you want a little bit more detail on how to make bacon. But simply enough, this is just some kosher salt, white sugar, pink curing salt, and I threw some other spices in there like some sage, some red chili flake, a little bit of garlic. But again, as long as you got the salt, sugar, and pink salt, you can add whatever flavors you like. So first thing I'm gonna do is get the weight of this pork belly, and I'm gonna add 3% by weight of this cure to this belly. Oh yeah, just get it covered all over, folks. So we'll get half of it up front and half of it on the back. Beautiful. And at this point, I'm gonna go around and rub it in. Make sure we get it all over. And please, folks, don't forget the sides, come on. And because this is an equilibrium cure, meaning we're using a percentage of the meat to have the perfect amount of salt, we wanna make sure all this salt ends up on this belly. Oh yeah, let's vac seal it up. Pork belly in a bag with all the cure. Going into this lovely chamber vac from the wonderful folks at Meat. Gotta say, I absolutely love this thing. Does such a nice job. My favorite part. Open. Perfect vac seal every time. Into the fridge this goes for the next 7 days. We're gonna let all that salt and pink salt and sugar and everything cure this meat until we've got some bacon. Every other day I'm gonna go around and flip it over once or twice to make sure we're getting even penetration. But other than that, I will see you in 7 days. 7 days later, out this comes. Gotta say, it's pretty amazing how it's the exact same weather, same lighting. What a quinky dink. Anywho, as you can see, this is looking nice and red. It has been in cure for 7 days. And you can see in the corners, there's some liquid in there that is drawn out of the meat, but because it's so tightly vac sealed, it all stayed in there, creating a super concentrated brine, making sure that this thing is fully cured all the way throughout. Let's open it up. Looking good. Beautiful color on there, nice and red. I'm gonna take this inside and run this under some cold water for the next little bit to rinse off any of this extra cure on here, any of the extra sugar, so nothing is over salted, over seasoned. Once nicely rinsed, looking beautiful, looking nice and clean. Let's fire up the pit. Once our charcoal is lit, we're gonna go on with some apple wood chunks. Any wood would work here, folks. Apple wood is a classic. And then on we go with our cured pork belly. We're gonna close this down and rock it around 200 degrees for the next little bit because we're cooking with apple wood low and slow. When it comes to smoking your bacon, it's really up to you how smoky you want that bacon to be. You know, you could easily do a true cold smoke around 85, 90 degrees and a bunch of smoke for hours and hours or days at a time to get some really true smoky bacon. And on the flip side, you could also cook it at like 250 degrees to just get a kiss of smoke. For me, I'm gonna split the difference. I'm going right around 200 degrees with a small amount of charcoal. I'm gonna adjust the vents accordingly to really dial in that temperature. And we're gonna smoke this cured pork belly until it comes up to an internal temperature of 150 degrees. And at that point, we will have bacon. So I'm gonna let this fire rock for the next little bit and we'll check back in once that internal temp has reached 150 degrees. And just like that, our bacon is fully smoked to 150 degrees internal temp, folks. Now I'm gonna pop this in my fridge, and then tomorrow we will have some beautiful bacon. When it comes to recipes with as few ingredients as BLT, it's really important that we get the most flavor out of those ingredients as possible. And we already know our homemade, home-cured, home-smoked bacon is gonna be absolutely fantastic. So next up, we're gonna make some bread. And there's plenty of opinions on what kind of bread to use for a BLT. A lot of people like a nice crusty bread or a rustic loaf of some sort. But when I think about a BLT, I think about a classic white bread cut at a diagonal to make those perfect BLT triangles. So that being said, let's make some white bread. Starting with some water, yeast, some white sugar, some oil, and some salt. Give that a quick little mix. And while that mixes, we're gonna go in with some bread flour. We're gonna let that knead for a good 3 to 5 minutes. Once that's come together nicely, we can bump up the speed and let this knead for a solid 5 more minutes. Beautiful. Into a grease bowl. This goes for the next hour or so, or until it doubles in size. Now that our dough has doubled in size, we're gonna throw a little bit of flour down on the board here. And out it comes. Looking good. Just gonna press this out, get some of the air out of it, and we're gonna roll it up into loaf form. Fold it up a little bit, and make a nice little log. Trying to keep this nice and tight. Beautiful little log. And into my loaf pan this goes. Now we're gonna let this rise until it's popping over the top of this thing a little bit, and into the oven it'll go. While we wait for that dough to rise, let's check in on our bacon. Ooh. Looking good, nice and smoky. And I went pretty heavy on the smoke. I usually don't cook it this dark, but that's what I was in the mood for. But because I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to bacon, I'm gonna bust out the meat slicer. And this is one of my biggest complaints when it comes to meat slicer for the backyard. This thing is pretty heavy duty, and yet it doesn't go back far enough to fit this whole slab on there this way. Meaning we've got a choice to make. Either we're gonna cut this way and get little tiny strips of bacon, or lob this end off and get them as long as we can. You know, I just don't understand why they don't make one of these that's long enough to make bacon, but it is what it is. So what I'm gonna do is mark this where the blade is and cut the end off, giving us a nice little cross section though. That is some beautiful looking bacon, nice and pink. Oh, love it, smells so good. You know the drill from here, folks. And there we have it, a beautiful, nice piece of bacon made on the Weber kettle, perfectly sliced. That's a nice thin piece right there. Because I got a whole slab, I'm gonna cut various thicknesses. Oh, that is a satisfying noise. And just like that, we have got a beautiful pile of bacon. I mean, just look at it, folks. All lined up in a row. Got some thick cut over here, got some middle, thinner, thinnest. Oh, that's a beautiful sight. And quite a lot of bacon, too. Pretty excited about that. 1 hour later, not gonna lie, folks, I got a little distracted and this overproofed a little bit more than I wanted to, but I'm not mad about it. But what I am gonna do at this point is take this little razor blade here and score the top a few times. I see bakers doing this a lot. I've been watching a lot of Brian Langerstrom lately. He's a big fan of the score. So I figured I'd give it a go. This is not as sharp as I was hoping. Anywho, into a 425-degree oven this goes for the next 40 minutes or so until it looks beautiful and golden brown. Oh, such beautiful bacon, folks. I tell you what. So as you can see, our bacon shrunk up quite a bit. It's just a tiny little baby piece of bacon. And that's for two different reasons. One, the aforementioned short slicer syndrome. So these are pretty short to begin with. But two, I sliced these pretty thin. So these ones on the right are about as thin as you're ever gonna find at the grocery store. These ones are in the middle, and this one's a pretty thick boy. And the main difference is the amount of crinklage we got. You know, this one's got a lot more peaks and valleys to it because it shrunk up, which is gonna make it extra crispy. This one's about half as much, and this one's got none. Something to think about when you're making a sandwich. For my bet, we're going thin cut. It's gonna be the crispiest, it's gonna be the lightest. It'll grab that mayo really nicely. And I gotta say, folks, that is some damn good looking bacon. That is phenomenal. This is definitely some of the best bacon I have ever made. That applewood smoke really makes a difference. This is the closest thing I've ever made to store-bought bacon. The thinness, the crispiness of it, the smokiness of it, incredibly good stuff. Next up, let's make some mayonnaise. Because no BLT is complete without some mayonnaise, folks. And to make your own is super easy, starting with 1 egg. And every time I make mayonnaise, there's someone in the comments saying that they don't want to eat raw eggs. So this time what I did is I popped this egg in a sous vide water bath at 135 degrees for about an hour and a half. And that's gonna completely pasteurize this egg, making it safe to eat while still technically raw. So, in it goes. Very nice. And to add some extra flavor to this mayonnaise, we're gonna go in with some other stuff, including some fresh basil leaves, a couple cloves of garlic, a nice tablespoon or so of some Dijon mustard, the juice of half of 1 lemon. Right in the eye. And personally, I'm a big fan of Japanese mayonnaise, which is very similar, except got a little MSG in there. Don't mind if I do. And we're also gonna go in with some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, cause why not? Oh, yes, please. And away we go. Oh yeah, just get that nice and chopped up. Now we're gonna go in with our oil. I'm going in with some avocado today, and we're just gonna slowly drizzle that in until it starts to thicken up. And once that's thickened up nicely, I'm gonna finish it off with some extra virgin olive oil, just to add some more wonderful flavor to this basil and garlic mayonnaise. We've got our bread looking beautiful. We've got our bacon, and what doesn't look good about that? As for lettuce, we're going with some beautiful romaine, keeping it classic. We've got our tomatoes, got a beefsteak and a yellow tomato. And to be completely honest, I was gonna go to the farmer's market and get some weird, funky looking heirloom tomatoes because they're perfectly in season right now. But I couldn't make it there because they're only open on Saturdays. So I went to the fanciest grocery store in town and this is all they had. So that's what we're gonna go with today. Let's slice them up. I prefer a serrated knife for cutting tomatoes. Just seems to work out well for me. And I'm not going too thick, but we're definitely not going as thin as possible. About a 1/4 inch. And please, folks, always season your tomatoes. Some nice big flaky salt. Oh yes, please. Otherwise, you will end up with a bland BLT. And nobody wants that. And some freshly cracked black pepper. This is the only pepper in the whole sandwich, so I like to go pretty heavy. Beautiful. Ooh, looking real nice. Get a nice thick boy. I'm gonna go ahead and butter one side and get that toasted off. After achieving a lovely butter toast on one side and just a very light kiss of dry toast on the underside, it's time to build our BLT. Starting with our beautiful, fantastic tasting mayonnaise. Don't be shy here, folks. Both sides, followed by a beautiful tomato, or 2, or 3. Scoot another little red guy in there. Even coverage, folks. Some of our lovely romaine lettuce. Any lettuce will work here, folks. Romaine is a classic. Butter leaf would be another great choice. Could go with iceberg if you wanted to. A little shred lead would be great, but I like the flavor and the crunch. And then, of course, our beautiful bacon. And while I'm here, might as well throw a little extra on this side, too. And then, yeah, beautiful. And of course, cut it at a diagonal, folks. Because what doesn't look good about that? I mean, would you just look at it, folks? Beautiful homemade bread with some house-made bacon, lovely tomatoes, lettuce for the absolutely perfect BLT. I think it's time to dive in. Ooh, come on. Oh God, that is fantastic. For me, that is a perfect balance of bread to bacon to lettuce to tomato. You know, it's tomato forward, as a BLT should be, but the bacon is there to give you that crunch and that salty and that smoky, and the lettuce is there just, I don't know, to make my mom happy. It's a vegetable. That bread though, phenomenal. Fresh out of the oven, nice and soft. I also like toasting it on one side and then hiding that toasted side on the inside because you get the sandwich, you think, oh man, that's an untoasted sandwich, but then you just get layers of texture all the way through. Nice squishy bread. It tastes like summer. That's unbelievable. I'm serious when I say that's probably the best bacon I've ever made. That Weber Kettle, what can it do? It's just got that perfect salt level, perfect smoke level. Nothing's overpowering. I wish it was a little bigger, but I mean, come on, folks. What's wrong with that? So good. Perfect. You know, for such a simple sandwich, it's got so much going on. With the saltiness, the smokiness, the acidity from the tomato, the fresh crunch from the lettuce, and also that mayo is perfect. You know, it's got that hint of basil and garlic, but it's just in the background, adding some really nice supporting notes. And it all just comes together for a perfect bite. Oh, so good. That bread is perfect. It's got a bit of chew to it. You know, it's a lot stronger than your typical Wonder Bread or something like that, but it's not quite hearty like a sourdough or a rustic loaf or something like that. This really is a perfect BLT. You know, this is my favorite thing about cooking. At its core, this is a basic sandwich, right? It's bacon, lettuce, tomato, mayo, and bread. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel here, adding avocado or any other fancy ingredients, but there is just care put into every step, and it pays off in the end. That is so good. Well, now that I've eaten that entire sandwich, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely fantastic bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich, as from scratch as I'm willing to go. And you could easily go to the store and get all of these ingredients and make yourself a fine sandwich, but there's something so rewarding about making everything yourself, and the taste is far superior. I highly recommend it. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. Feel free to drop a comment down below letting me know what you want to see me cook next. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big thanks to Fogo Charcoal. Thank you for sponsoring the Weber Kettle series, and until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!